Welcome back to Only Talk Sports. So we talk sports every single day, or at least we try to. I'm Ernest Jeffrey. Subscribe to the channel if you like sports content. Hit that notification bell so you never miss our video. Around a month ago, I made a video talking about Karter Knox committing to the Kentucky Wildcats. And oh boy, a lot has changed since I made that video. Because now Karter Knox, he's committing to a new basketball program, but he's also committing to the same head basketball coach. And that's because John Calipari, we all know now that he is in Arkansas, and Karter Knox is following him to the Razorbacks. I'm going to go over Karter Knox's decision to commit to the Arkansas Razorbacks and whether I believe that John Calipari can get the vast majority of players from the Kentucky Wildcats to follow him to Arkansas. Now, when you look at John Calipari being the head basketball coach of Kentucky, he is a very polarizing figure for a lot of different fans, Kentucky fans and basketball fans in general, because a lot of people believe that John Calipari, he is one of the only coaches in college basketball that is capable of being able to land as many 5-stars as he does because of his track record of bringing guys in and them going off to the NBA. Now, I know him being at Kentucky helped out big time because, yes, when he was at UMass, he had Marcus Camby, and when he was at Memphis, he had Derrick Rose, and he didn't have a lot of other players besides that at those schools, but he still had some talent on those teams. But when he went to Kentucky, and the fact they got a whole lot more money and they got way more fans, it definitely makes sense why John Calipari was able to land so many great players. But you look at a guy like Mike Krzyzewski at Duke, he landed a lot of 5-stars as well. Now John Shire's taken over, and they're still doing it for now. So you can't say it is partially the program, but I do think it says a lot about John Calipari as a coach and just his ability to bring in players due to his coaching style and the success he's had in the past bringing in so many players. And that's why guys want to play for John Calipari when they're 5-star recruits. And Karter Knox, for one thing, his older brother, Kevin Knox, he played for John Calipari at Kentucky. That's why Karter Knox committed to Kentucky as well when John Calipari was still there. But now he's going to the Arkansas Razorbacks. And now Kentucky has a big dilemma because they're probably going to be losing a whole lot more players than just Karter Knox. Jaden Quaintance, Boogie Flan, Billy Richmond, and Somto Cyril, all of those guys have decommitted from the Wildcats, and they could end up going to Arkansas as well because they've got a lot of roster spots available. So much so that Arkansas lost every single one of their scholarship players from this past season. They're all transferring to other programs or they're out of eligibility. Some of them are following Eric Musselman to USC, and that kind of seems to be the deal here. When a coach leaves, a lot of the players enter the portal and follow that coach to the new school. It's just the way that it goes these days. The transfer portal, it is very rough for a new head coach to be able to take over a program when all of the team is depleted. But in John Calipari's circumstance, he's got all of these ties to these players because they're already committed to Kentucky. So you know that a lot of them are going to end up going to Arkansas. Now, not every single player is going to follow John Calipari to Arkansas because Aaron Bradshaw, he ended up transferring from Kentucky to go to Ohio State. So he wasn't able to bring him over to Arkansas. Then you look at a guy like Travis Perry, he's staying committed to Kentucky. And a guy in Jaden Quaintance, he's actually visiting Kentucky with Mark Pope. So he could stay with the Wildcats. So even though Kentucky is not going to be the same program right now with Mark Pope at head coach because they're not going to be able to land all these 5-stars like John Calipari brought in, it doesn't mean that Kentucky is incapable of being able to land these players because I think Mark Pope might have a shot to keep one of these guys. We'll have to see. But Boogie Flan, it's a good chance he's going to Arkansas. Billy Richmond as well. Definitely it looks like John Calipari is going to be able to bring most of these guys over. And it's because look at what Karter Knox said. Throughout my whole recruiting process, Coach Cal has always said he wants to make me a pro, and I trust that he will do that for me at Arkansas. Basically just the same as when he was at Kentucky. I also have a great relationship with Coach Kenny Payne, which is now an assistant coach at Arkansas. So getting to play for two coaches I admire is a dream come true. I'm looking forward to getting there, getting to work, and bringing a winning mentality to Fayetteville. And to me, it just goes to show that players, they commit to coaches, not programs. That's why Kentucky is going to go through some growing pains now that Mark Pope is the head coach. And when you got John Calipari now down there at Arkansas, which is a program that's not as good as Kentucky, they're still going to be able to land all these 5-star guys that Coach Cal brought into Kentucky because it's Coach Cal. That's what the players care about. They want to go pro. And Joe Tipton, he tweeted out that 2024 top 20 recruit Karter Knox, a former Kentucky pledge, has committed to Arkansas and will follow John Calipari. And I think you're going to continue to see that. Like I said, not all of these guys are going to follow John Calipari to Arkansas, but probably over 50%, maybe even up to 75% of the players that were at Kentucky this past season, plus the high school commits, will end up going going to Fayetteville, Arkansas. Big Z, he's already transferred to Arkansas as well. So he's committed to John Calipari. And now Karter Knox is the first of the 5-star commits to go to Arkansas. It's kind of funny that he was the last 5-star player to commit to John Calipari before he ended up leaving Kentucky. And now he's the first commitment that John Calipari lands of all the guys that he ended up getting at Kentucky. So that's crazy. And all of the things I said about Karter Knox's basketball ability in that Kentucky video also applies here. He's going to be the same type of player at Arkansas. I believe that he is going to be able to impact John Calipari's squad in his first season down there in Arkansas. He could be a one and done. We'll have to see. I don't know if he's going to end up having as big of an impact as his brother did in college, or he could end up having an even bigger impact. He's a very talented player, 6'6" wing. He can shoot the basketball, even though he does need to work on that part of his game, but definitely has a good mid-range game, can get to the basket. Pretty good defender as well. But if John Calipari is able to bring in a lot of those 5-star freshmen over to Arkansas, he's still got to be able to recruit that transfer portal and maybe bring in a couple of guys that have some experience, because that's been John Calipari's Achilles heel the last few years. He hasn't had enough experience on his squad, way too reliant on freshmen. But it's going to be really interesting to see what happens next season with how Mark Pope builds his roster and which players he's able to retain from John Calipari's group of players and the players he's able to bring in. And it's going to be interesting to see how many of the players follow John Calipari to Arkansas and what other work John Calipari is going to have to do in the transfer portal to fill in the remaining gaps. But a lot of changes going on in college basketball right now. And two of the programs that are being affected the most are the Kentucky Wildcats and the Arkansas Razorbacks. But one thing we know for sure is that John Calipari is still going to be bringing in those 5-star players. And Karter Knox is the first of his former Kentucky commits to follow him to Fayetteville, Arkansas. And he should have a big impact for the Razorbacks next season. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below about Karter Knox committing to the Arkansas Razorbacks after committing to Kentucky when John Calipari was there, and whether you are surprised at all that he did go to Arkansas. I'm definitely not. It is definitely not a shock at all, and more Kentucky players are probably going to end up committing to Arkansas in the coming days, and whether you believe that John Calipari will have success at Arkansas next season, and whether you think Kentucky basketball under Mark Pope has a shot to be good next season as well. Subscribe to the channel if you like sports content. Like this video down below. Follow me on Twitter as well. Link is in the description, and I'll see you next time.